Don't confuse that there is a huge social problem with the willingness to pay. We will help you get grants or money through impact measurement. Validate, and validate. Like, don't assume. When you're surviving, overwhelming with many things, if I tell you you have to measure impact, you'll say, what? I can't.
Yeah.
But if I tell you, let's use your data for get more money, like a founder say, okay, of course, that's something that it's important to me. I feel I'm really helping founders and impact entrepreneurs to go like in this phase of, the value of death, which is so complicated. I like we're doing that with impact measurement.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this special conversation where we'll be talking about how to build and fund impact-driven companies. I'm Courtney Sipes, a social impact strategist, and I've spent the majority of the past decade working with purpose-driven companies and helping them define, measure, and communicate their impact. Today, I'm joined by someone whose work I've long admired and now have the distinct privilege to work alongside, Adriana Mata. Adriana is a two-time Impact founder, a Cartier Women's Initiative Fellow, and an impact measurement expert who has coached hundreds of social entrepreneurs in Latin America and beyond. In this conversation, we'll cover the highs and lows of building an impact-driven venture, some of the myths around impact measurement, and why fundraising is so hard, and some ways we might be able to rethink our approach to do it better. Whether you're a founder, funder, or someone that's just interested in purpose-driven businesses, there's something here for you. Before we dive in, Adriana, I would love for you to share a little bit about your background and what brought you to the world of impact entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Courtney. I'm Adriana. I come from Venezuela, a very difficult place. My background is engineering. I studied engineering, but when I was studying at university, I found out the impact projects, and I fell in love. I remember what brought me here was, as I told you, Venezuela is a very difficult country with a lot of problems, so I really like to complain about everything. And then one day I asked myself a question, like, what are you doing to change that? And the answer was nothing. So I said, okay, maybe you should do something, whatever. And then I started to volunteer in some rural areas. Then eventually I started an NGO, and I got here in the impact ecosystem.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that there will be many people that resonate with that. So you've built two impact-driven companies and coach hundreds of founders. In your experience, what does it really take to build a successful impact venture?
I think the first question is what it is to be a successful company, right? Especially if you're talking about an impact business. I think if you think about like a startup, you will think about success, thinking about growth, like growing 10x every month.
Yeah.
And that's okay if you want that. But I think for impact businesses, the success looks different. Maybe it's understanding better the problem. Maybe it's trying to start with something and to tell the world, there is something here we have to tackle. And maybe even if you don't solve it, if you start and someone is following you, I think maybe that could be a success. So it depends. I think the first question that maybe a founder has to have for their team and themselves, it's what is success for me and for my business?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It can be easy to sort of pigeonhole ourselves into like what traditionally profit-driven businesses have been like, and so sort of like not seeing the forest from the trees, that, maybe those aren't the best comparison points. So your expertise lies at the intersection of entrepreneurship and impact measurement. What's a common myth in the ecosystem that you wish more people would challenge?
I will say that the common myth is that impact measurement is expensive, which is true if you compare to academic research, which of course it's complicated. But maybe we have to think about impact measurement in businesses differently. Like, how can I know I'm really changing the problem? How can I really know that I have an impact in my clients or beneficiaries? I think I believe we can change that, and we don't need to have an academic research for every question we have in our companies, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's for me a myth. Of course, I don't know if I tell you, but I come from like a very rigorous impact measurement consultancy background, but I don't know if it's the right approach we have to have for impact businesses. Definitely. I think we have to have a middle ground where we say, okay, if we need this rigorosity, okay, this is the methodology. But maybe for other questions, we need something else.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that's something we sort of find ourselves talking about a lot, is trying to sort of find the middle ground in these sectors that historically have not really communicated with each other or been a part of, one project. So I think that absolutely makes sense. So we're both passionate about helping founders not only build impactful businesses, but actually prove their impact. And a big part of that, of course, is measurement. Why do you think so many founders skip measuring impact, and what do you wish they knew instead?
I think the same. The first is they're overwhelmed. As a founder, you have many things to take care, like, I don't know, like clients, anything legal, your team. Like, there are so many things going on that maybe impact measurement is another thing to take care. But I liked the founders see impact measurement like a strategic tool to really hit their goals. And it can be like business goal, impact goals. So if you really think it's something that can help you, you will put it in one of your priorities. So that's what I would like the founders think.
Yeah, I think that's something I find myself recommending a lot is, choose impact metrics that, based on the data that you're collecting, you would actually make a change in your business. And if you wouldn't, you probably shouldn't be measuring it.
Yeah, exactly. I also ask them like, what are you going to do after you measure this? And if they answer nothing, well, don't measure.
Exactly. Yes. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. One of the things I've admired most about you as a founder is how openly you've talked about navigating failure. You made the difficult decision to shut your previous company down, Quantix, after several successful years. What happened, and what was that moment like for you?
It was a really hard moment. I think sometimes I think for every founder is like this. You attach too much yourself to your company that sometimes it's difficult to separate both. So in my case, I felt that failure like my own failure. Like I did something wrong, and with time I understood it was not that the case, but it felt like that. So in time I say, this is something that I like. This is something that I'm really passionate about. Why not try again? Like maybe, what if I take all the things I've learned to do it again? Yeah. But it hurts.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I love how openly you've shared this experience with people, because I think that it, like, not being afraid of failure liberates us to be able to just try anyway. And it's like, oh, even Adriana now, who is very successful in many metrics, but, had to shut a company down, not seeing that really even as a failure, but just another stepping stone on this journey. So looking back, what would you do differently with Quantix?
Yes, I think the first and the most important is to validate. As a founder, if you're passionate about a problem, you used to think that you have the solution in your mind and it's going to work. And yeah, of course, you have to have that, but you have to validate. Like, is this the client? Is this the right client? Is this the right solution? Are they willing to pay? And I always say, don't confuse that there is a huge social problem with the willingness to pay. They're completely different things, and you have to validate both. You have to validate there is a huge problem that is really urgent to solve, and you have to validate that in your solution someone is willing to pay. It's difficult, but that's your job, like founder. Like even if it takes you years, you have to do it.
Yeah. I like that you're even sharing that maybe it takes years to create that validation. I think that, entrepreneurs in this space can, again, coming back to like this need to compare ourselves with founders that are operating traditional startups, and that's just not the case. And the validation on both of those sides absolutely takes longer and makes a lot of sense.
And a common mistake when you start a company, you usually compare with the successful startups. And you say, oh, you know how now it's Airbnb or Facebook or Spotify? Yeah. Like, how long have been they in business? Like 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So don't compare with that, because I'm sure they struggle, and many others struggle too, and they fail. So I don't know why we usually compare with those success stories, but for me, it's better to compare with what have you learned from whatever you have done before.
Yeah, absolutely. What advice would you give to other impact founders navigating that kind of decision or uncertainty?
I would say first, well, of course, validate. Sometimes the insight is very simple. For example, I always say it took me 5 years to understand that entrepreneurs and founders need something really quick and easy to measure. And even if back at that time, like 5 years before, like someone can tell me, yes, we need something simple, I really couldn't understand what they mean. It took me 5 years to understand, to learn. And then now, if you see our software, it's really simple. And it's so simple that people say, really? Did it take you 5 years to build this? No, what it takes 5 years is to understand the real insight, So I always say, take the time to understand what's happening. Even if you think you have the solution, maybe you don't. But you have to keep going, And as you said, don't be afraid to make mistakes, because you will make a mistake. So don't worry.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think allowing ourselves that time, like understanding that what we're navigating has like extra challenges. And so understanding that, we're not on everybody else's timeline.
And something that helps is to see all of these decisions that you like when you have to make a decision under uncertainty, which is everything. It's better to put it as an assumption or a hypothesis. Like, if we do this, then we expect the client do that. And it's easier because you don't take it like a personal thing against you or against your idea. It's something that everyone needs to test, It's better. It's easier even for a team or for a founder to navigate all those uncertainties.
Yeah, I love that, because you're kind of then able to say, not necessarily, it's not I'm wrong, but instead, oh, my hypothesis was wrong, and now we get to change it. And even though in the end it's kind of the same thing, I see exactly what you're talking about, how that can kind of like change your mindset around it. So thankfully, Quantix wasn't the end of your founder journey. You've taken everything you've learned and poured it into something new. Tell us about what you're building now.
We are building Agile Impacts, which is a software that uses artificial intelligence to create the impact measurement process faster, better, and easier. Helping not only creating the theory of change and impact metrics, but also aggregating the impact of, let's say, a portfolio. But one of the things that took us years to understand is, if the company is surviving for money, the impact measurement is going to be in the last priority. So what we are doing now is we say, okay, we will help you get grants or money through impact measurement. Like, let's use your data in something that you really can prioritize. And that for us has been a shift, because when you're surviving, overwhelming with many things, if I tell you you have to measure impact, you'll say, what? I can't.
Yeah.
But if I tell you, let's use your data, the data you already have in your company, let's maybe complement it with something else, and let's use that for get more money. Like a founder say, okay, of course, that's something that it's important to me. And I think I'm passionate about it because I feel I'm really helping founders and impact entrepreneurs to go like in this phase of, the valley of death, which is so complicated. And I like we're doing that with impact measurement.
Yeah, and I love how much this process has tied back to something you said earlier, which is that it can really take years to figure out how exactly you're going to structure a business around solving a particular problem. I think that for you, that problem has been for years trying to figure out how to help founders measure impact. But, part of it is, how does it become a priority? How do we teach them how to do it? How do we get them to invest in a software? All of these issues that have come up through like this process and learning. And now you've been able to identify a way to get them to invest this time and make it a priority by tying it to creating winning grant applications. And I think that like seeing that process for you has been really incredible.
Yeah, and that's how I told you that sometimes insights, it seems so simple and obvious, but they're not obvious. I remember when I was telling my brother, this chief of the business model, I said, no, we're helping companies to get more money because that's important for them. And he asked me, and you didn't know that before? I said, yes, but I didn't know it was so connected,
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it's right in front of us and we don't see it. And It's been really incredible to watch Agile Impacts really step into its power, really, and to watch you lead the company in this direction. It's been really great.
Oh, thank you.
One of the biggest challenges Impact founders face is funding, especially figuring out how to raise money without compromising their mission. What's the biggest mistake you see founders make when trying to raise funding for their impact venture?
One, maybe to rush to raise money from VCs or investors if they are not ready.
Yeah.
It's a good way when you already validate the business model or you already know how to grow. And sometimes you really don't know, and you have to admit that. I remember this second time with Agile Impacts, people ask me, are you raising funds? I say, no. Why? Because I'm not ready. No, really. But you should know. No, you maybe not. You have to really know if that's the right way for you.
Yeah.
Even if you want to share decisions, which is the most important, like many things. So what I usually recommend is to go with grants if you're in this space where you still don't know what your business model is, or you need to validate more things before thinking about growing or expanding. And I think that has a reason behind, which is for an investor, it's too risky to invest in your business.
Yeah.
Even for traditional startups, it's a high risk. But for impact startups, it's even more because you are doing two things at the same time. You're solving a huge problem, and also you're trying to look for profitability. So the grants exist because it's a way to de-risk the investment. So when you take, okay, I'm going to take this grant, of course, for you, it's good like a founder, but even for the investor, it's good too, because you have more time to validate. You can, make trial and error without, worrying about you don't have money and you will have to close. And at the end, it will give you more time to validate that and say, okay, investor, now I already have my business model. I know how to grow. I already validated those hypotheses. I'm ready for more money. If that's your decision, maybe you can decide not to.
Yeah,
I've known many impact business that have decided not to raise money, and it's okay.
Yeah.
I think what I really want the founders to think is, you can decide, or try make your business so you can decide that.
There isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, basically. There are many sort of options available, and we don't have to always go. I want to say the traditional path, but in some ways, it's kind of just what's the most publicly available path,
or what we have believed is success for companies.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Actually, I always see news this company raised $10 million, and sometimes you see I'm doing something wrong. I'm the one who's wrong, and no, you're not.
Yeah. I've also seen that based on an idea. So maybe in some ways we are doing something wrong. So you often recommend grants over VC funding. Why is that?
I think it's because of this. It's sometimes you're not ready because you don't know what's the right business model for solving that problem. Let's say, for example, in Quantix, we say, we are a SaaS, we are a software as a service. It's a lie. You want to be a SaaS, but you're not there yet. So investors know that. And that's why it's difficult to raise money from VCs at that time.
Yeah.
Because you're still starting to discover the problem, starting to discover like what we call product market fit is who's going to pay for this, like recurrently. Like, so I say, if you don't know, you have to look for grants, because another way to see this is it's a lot of risk for an investor to invest in you if you don't know exactly the business model. It's a lot of risk. Even even for traditional startup, it will be high risk. For impact startup, it's like 10x more. I don't know, is that the correct? But so when you think about grants and why they give grants to business, usually they give grants to NGOs. It's because it's the best way to de-risk the investor. Say, okay, I will pay for this, so you have more time to validate, and then when you receive investment, the risk is lower for the investor. Yeah. So that's like the rationale behind the grants. It's because it's too risky if you really don't know who's your client, how it's gonna pay, why it's gonna pay.
Yeah. So we work with a lot of founders who are doing amazing work, but struggle to translate that work into strong impact metrics.
Yes.
Especially for grant funding. What advice would you give to them?
Oh, I always advise to first start with your theory of change. That's the best way to really explain. Even sometimes it's not clear for you, so it's difficult to communicate if you're not clear. So what I like from theory of change is like the causality. Like if this happened, then this will happen.
Right.
And it allows you to have a logic behind that. When you have to explain, that's the reason why I have social impact. That's the reason why this solution eventually come with this impact. It's because it has a logic behind. And if that logic has, for example, some research or evidence, it's even better.
Right.
If you're really, really innovative and there's no evidence, it will be hard for you to explain. But let's say, for example, I know education. Education is a good example. You don't have to demonstrate that education is good for people. Like you can assume, like we can say, yeah, it's true. So maybe your job is say, okay, what are you solving that you will get more education for more people in a way that hasn't existed before? And that's, like you understand education is good, but we're solving like the way because for some reason it's not accessible for all. So the first advice will be create your theory of change. Second, I will say the data. It's what really differentiates you from the rest, because I always say in these days with ChatGPT, you can create a story from scratch, but no so many companies can speak with their data.
Right.
So if you can do that, even if it's just one or two, you will differentiate, and it will people will understand that you're really trying to know and understand what's happening.
Yeah. It's like the difference between like talking the talk versus walking the walk. Like, can you actually demonstrate or prove what you're doing? What trends or shifts are you most excited about when it comes to the future of impact entrepreneurship?
Well, now I think what I'm really happy is like, you said, I'm an impact entrepreneur, and people say, oh, no, I understand what you are. But, years before it was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what are you again? So I think now we can feel proud that we are in this. We know it's difficult, but now I see more and more people wanting to come here and, be part of this. Second, technology. I think like most difficult problems have a great opportunity to be solved with technology. Not all of them, of course, but many of them, yes. And third, I have to say, artificial intelligence. Yes.
The subtle plug.
Yes, it's like, we have to be careful but I'm sure like it will be easier to solve many problems that were more difficult before.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've lived the founder journey twice and worked with so many others along the way. If someone listening wants to build something truly impactful, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them?
I have three.
Okay, 3.
One, validate, and validate. Like, don't assume.
I think that's been a key takeaway today.
Yeah. Second, focus. I heard a professor saying growth is more about saying no than saying yes.
Yes.
Wow, so smart. It took me, 5 years to
I'm
understand.
still learning that one.
Yeah, me too. I have to repeat that and, write it down.
It's like the daily mantra.
And third, like, follow your passion.
Yeah.
It's maybe the most difficult because when you start this, you hesitate. Let's say, oh no, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm too crazy. No, you're not. Like, or if you are, welcome. We need you.
Yeah, I think I've heard from more than one founder that you have to be a little crazy to get into entrepreneurship on an even harder level than even just general entrepreneurship. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Adriana.
Thank you.
It was such a pleasure to be able to have this conversation with you, and looking forward to everything that's to come with Agile Impacts.
Yeah, thank you.